Hey, MangaMatt with the rest of my top 10 list here. Now, before I begin, it came to my attention a while ago that I left out several numbers off of the top 10 list. I apparently cannot count to 10, or backwards from 10, supposedly. So in honor of my huge blundering, which should have no excuse because I do watch these videos before I post them for quality control, and the fact that this completely missed me, there's no excuse for it on my part. And so what I will do now is, much in lieu of the Marvel company, I will award the man that pointed it out to me with a no prize. That is, I'm saying, you got me, I was wrong, you were right, and so in honoring of that, I am now also using the no prize pen, drawing it out from the no prize ink well. So here we go. Okay, get the air bubble out of it. There we go. Draw it out. Then we just attach it into the pen tip here, made of pure iridium. Then we attach the top to it. Good. Make sure it works. There's a little scrap here. Sometimes it's not exactly a science here. Just twist a little, give it a little English. There we go. Yeah, this will work good now. Let's see. And it's coming, and alright, we got a pen now. Alright. No prize. 2 6-string gun slinger. My bad. Sincerely, MangaMatt. Alright. There you have it. And for 6-string gunslinger, if you will give me a mailing address, I will put this in an envelope and you can have it put on your wall, use it to line your bird cage with, what have you, but there, that's for that. And same goes for anyone else who happens to catch something that I have done that is a complete lost for words on how I could have missed it, minus any problem I might have had with pronouncing names or things or anything like that, or anytime I say, well, I can't remember for the life of me something. If I completely go off that is fact or something, and I was completely wrong on something, catch me on it, and you might get one too if I think that it's a unexcusable blunder as I have just made. But here we go to fix things, hopefully, once and for all. Let's continue on my top 10 best manga of my opinion. Starting back again with number 5, with Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira. Now, what I love about this series is really just the great scope and the great art in here. Everything is drawn in such detail with such big panels, and you really get a sense of grandiose with everything that is going on. And then also you get this real grit kind of look with everything, with the military, with all of the biker punks. There's lots of great sci-fi elements in here, a wide-scoping story, and the translation in it is just great. I love it so much with the speed lines and with the detail on the sound effects and everything. Really, there is no flaw in this. This is absolutely perfect. And also the fact that it works with a great complement to the movie itself. The movie and the manga, I believe, are both completely separate entities because of how different the two of them told the same story. And I really like that. It's sort of like the difference between Old Boy and Old Boy the movie and Old Boy the comic. They're so different in how they approach the same kind of generic story that they really are very different story elements. And so with that, I really recommend that you pick up Akira because it is a must-have. Even if you never want to read another manga series, it's very Western with a lot of the things that are done in there and the way that the story progresses. It's like an action movie. It's like it's on such a great scale like that. So much so that as I found out in the Laserdisc version of the Akira movie, they actually did put in, I think, the entire first volume of Akira in there. So those of you that have a Laserdisc player could buy that and read the first volume and see if you like it. But that's all I had to say about that. Next up is number 4, Berserk by Kentaro Miura. There we are right there. This is probably the single greatest dark fantasy that a person could ever own. It's such a sweeping story with amazing artwork. It borders on almost horror, and it's almost, you can't even look at it. You get so disturbed by some of the images, but it's done so beautifully that you want to keep reading it. You also have this great build-up over the course of the entire series. Basically from Volume 2 to about Volume 12 is all backstory. It's all set up for what's going to happen later in the series with Berserk, because the entire first 12 books pretty much is really just explaining who Guts is from his childhood all the way into his adulthood. Just the story of him just growing up as a mercenaries kid, and actually probably the most badass origin stories you could ever have, because it turns out that his mother was hung from a tree, and then he himself, Guts, was actually birthed. You can see right there in that little spot right there. He was actually birthed from his dead mother while she was being hung, and you just see this band of mercenaries just walking by, and they actually pick up Guts, and the little girl there in the corner right there just decides to take him in and raise it with Gambino up here as the sort of surrogate father. And it perfectly explains then that the reason why Guts has to be trained with an adult-sized sword is because the mercenary group didn't have child-sized swords. So that explains then why throughout the entire rest of the series, Guts always is wielding these unbelievably large swords. So it really does set all of that up in a completely serious manner. And it also has great relationships between especially Guts and Griffith, who becomes his sort of leader, the leader of the mercenary group he eventually joins, and also his best friend, and all of his goals and how Guts fits into that. And then also the smoldering relationship between him and Casca, which eventually sets everything that he does later in the series as an adult, and it just builds and builds until it ultimately climaxes to when one of his friends ultimately sells him and all of his other friends out to attain ultimate power. And by that point, you are completely hooked, and it completely introverts everything that happened prior to those volumes. And what we're then brought into is this incredibly dark and disturbing sort of fantasy world where demons and creatures rule the land, and Guts is the only semblance of an opposition to this force. And it really turns into sort of like Conan the Barbarian. Like Guts is the only man who is willing to stand up against these atrocities, these abominations of that just plague the land. And he actually will go into like these villages who have ruled these beings out as like acts of God, and he will destroy them and leave the village pondering now what they were believing in all this time. And it really is as though the man was writing this, trying to write the best manga he could ever write himself. And just pick up the first 5 books, and if that doesn't convince you, then I'm sorry, you just don't have good taste. No, I'm serious. That's the only way to put it. You don't have good taste if you can't get into Berserk and appreciate it for how amazing it is. So I'll see you in the next part where I fix another part. So there you go.